These are 5 compliments I would stop accepting if I were a woman. Okay, I've got a degree in cognitive neuroscience, and I'm about to ruin compliments for roughly 12 minutes. Sorry in advance. Okay, here's the thing almost nobody says out loud though. Praise isn't a description, it's reinforcement. When someone tells you what they love about you, they aren't filing a neutral report on your character. They're doing something to you. Behavior that gets rewarded increases. And that's not some random self-help idea. It's one of the oldest, most boring, most replicated findings in all of psychology and neuroscience, and your brain runs it whether you consent to it or not. You gotta remember that social approval isn't a metaphorical reward, it's a literal one. When you get praised, the same striatal reward circuitry that fires for money, fires for being liked. Your brain files it under good, do that again, and it doesn't ask for your opinion, okay? So when a man tells you what he loves about you, he isn't describing you. He's telling you which version of you he'd like more of, which means the only question that actually matters is more of what? By the way, my name's Cody. Again, I've got a degree in cognitive neuroscience. I'm trained in a trauma therapy called internal family systems. I study this stuff for a living. Over 1 million women trust me to help them navigate breakups and heartbreak, to prepare them for modern dating, because I say the hard things, but I do it with love and I do it with science. Let's dive into this. First of all, this is not a search and destroy list. Let's break that down right now. Okay. Yes, I can in fact read your mind. I know what you want to do with this already. Okay. And before you go reread every text you've ever received with a highlighter and a grudge, let me be very clear. Not one of these 5 is a red flag on its own. Not a single one. Every one of them can be said with total sincerity by a good man who has no idea what he's reinforcing, because nobody ever taught him, because he's inherited a script about what praise is supposed to sound like, and he's just running it. The compliment is never the data. What he does in the days after is the data. So for each of these, you're going to get 3 things, okay? What to watch for after he says it, what's actually the problem versus what's completely fine, and one small thing that you can do about it, okay? No convictions in the first 10 minutes, ladies, okay? Back to our scheduled programming. Numero uno. The first compliment is you're so low maintenance. This can sound like you're easy to love, but it often means I never have to maintain you. Maintenance is what you do for things you intend to keep. You maintain a house you plan to live in. You maintain a car you plan to drive for another decade. You do not maintain a rental that you're returning on Sunday in the same way though. So low maintenance isn't necessarily a compliment about your standards. A lot of the time it's a compliment about the absence of them. Low maintenance means low cost, and low cost is not the same thing as high value. Those are 2 completely different measurements, and we've been trained to hear them as one. Here's what to watch for. What's not a problem. A lot of men say this and mean something honest and specific. They came out of a relationship that felt like a full-time job with no days off, and peace now feels like oxygen, right? That makes sense. That's okay. That's gratitude for the absence of chaos, not gratitude for the absence of effort. Okay. And you can tell them apart, because a man who's grateful for peace still asks for what you need. He notices you're not asking for much and gets curious about it instead of relieved by it. The problem, when this becomes a problem, is the timing. Okay. If you're so low maintenance tends to show up right as you are working up to ask for something, that's not praise. That's a ceiling being installed. Okay. Watch also for the flinch, the small flicker of disappointment when you do ask for something normal. Like you just broke a rule that you never agreed to, okay? Here's what to do if this is going on for you, okay? Ask him one question once and do not rescue him from the silence after it. What would you say I need from you? A man who's paying attention will name something, maybe clumsily, maybe a little bit wrong, but something, okay? A man who says, honestly, nothing, you're so easy, has just told you he's never had to find out. He's never listened. He's never been curious. And that's not because you don't need anything. It's because you've never charged him. It's completely a free ride. Like, what are we doing? Okay. That's number 1. Number 2, you're not like other girls. Okay. It sounds like you're special, right? It often means though that you won't ask for what they asked for. This one is clever. And I don't think that most men know how clever it actually is, because it hands you a status for free, and anything handed to you for free can be taken back for free. Okay. Because now you have a role, and the price of the role is that you have to keep proving you deserve it. So when you eventually want a text back inside of 8 hours, or a defined thing, or a plan made more than 4 hours in advance, you're not asking for a normal thing anymore. You're breaking character. He gave you a costume and then made your needs a betrayal of it. That's wild. And this works because identity is so freaking powerful in our brains. When you're assigned that character, you want to maintain it subconsciously. Okay. There's also something that's kind of quietly happening here as well, which is kind of wild to see from the outside, but this compliment only really works if other women are beneath you, which means your status depends on their diminishment. Listen to that again, which also means the exact people who are likely to look at your situation and say, babe, no, what are we doing here? Are now the people who have been subtly positioned against you. Yikes. Okay. That's an isolation mechanism, dude. A soft one, but I mean, let's just call it what it is. That's what it is. So here's what to watch for. What's not a problem in this situation, right? Clumsy delivery. specific content. If you say, what do you mean? And he comes back with an actual behavior, you tell me what you're thinking instead of making me guess. And I've never had that before. That's a real compliment that came out in kind of a bad wrapper. There's really good research behind this distinction. Okay. It's specific and accurate perception of a part that tracks with relationships going well, not sweeping global adoration. Vague grand praise is actually a worse sign than small, precise one. Okay. Where the problem is here is it stays comparative and it stays vague. He can't tell you what he means, or every answer is just another version of you're not like them. Again, what to do? What to do on this one's pretty simple. Just ask, what do you mean by that? It's 6 words. Okay. And a man who means something real will name a behavior. A man handing you a role will fumble it, double down on a comparison, or somehow make you feel rude for asking. Classic. Okay. And then watch which one happens. That's your answer. All right. Number 3, you're so easy to talk to. Honestly, this one's usually completely sincere. I put this one in the middle on purpose because it breaks the pattern. And I don't want you to think that I'm cynical about everything. I'm actually a very positive person. If you're one of my clients watching this, you know that's absolutely true. Okay. And this one often is exactly what it sounds like. He means it. It's lovely. Okay. It's still worth interrogating, not because he's lying, but because of what the sentence quietly measures. Okay. So here's your question. Has he ever once been easy for you to talk to? Because co-regulation is supposed to run both directions. 2 nervous systems taking turns being the steady one. That's the entire mechanism. The reason being with a safe person measurably lowers your threat response is that you're carrying part of the load. When only one nervous system does the carrying, that's not intimacy, that's service. Okay. And service dressed up as closeness is one of the most disorienting things a person can live inside of because it feels connected, right? You know his childhood. You know why he gets weird around his mom. You know the exact sentence his last partner said that still stings. Okay. But does he know your last hard week? Does he know what it was actually about? Okay. So what to watch for here, something that is not a problem, okay, is if the ratio evens out over time. He talks and then he asks. Okay. He notices when you go quiet and moves towards it instead of enjoying the break. And sometimes he even initiates the deep conversation. The problem is when you leave the conversation heavier and he leaves it lighter every single time. He has full emotional file on you and you have logistics, where he works and what he's doing this weekend. Okay. And when you do bring something real, there's a change in the subject, a joke, you'll be fine, or the advice that you didn't ask for. Okay. That last one's kind of sneaky too, because advice can be a way of ending an emotional moment while looking like you're helping, right? It's a cop out. It's not real. So here's what to do. Bring one real thing, not a crisis, not a test, just something true that's normally filed away because it doesn't feel like it's something that he can carry. Okay. And then say nothing else and watch what he does. Does he move toward it? Does he wait? What's he do? Okay. You're not looking for perfection here. You're looking for movement. All right. Let's go to number 4. You're so independent. Okay. This one can sound like admiration at first, but I've seen it subtly mean you'll be fine without me just as many times. Okay. This is number 4 for a reason. It's the one that men pretty reliably say right before they go quiet. Not always. Okay. Sometimes it's real admiration, fully earned, said with his whole chest. Okay. Just to be clear. And sometimes it's a man building a case in advance, because look at the math. Okay. If he tells you enough times how strong you are, how you've got it handled, how you don't need anybody, and then he pulls back when his texts get shorter, when he vanishes for 4 days, he's not abandoning you. He's respecting your independence. Come on, right? He gets to withdraw and then he gets a call to compliment. Like, what the hell? So what to watch for? First of all, like, what's not a problem, right? Admiration plus presence, okay? Notice the plus. He says he loves that you built your whole life by yourself, and then he shows up on a bad Tuesday. He leans in when you struggle instead of stepping back to give you room you never asked for. Both things exist at once. The problem is when it's admiration instead of presence. And once again, watch the timing. If you're so strong tends to arrive right after he dropped the ball, that's not praise. That's ointment on a wound he made, okay? Also watch the tense. Real admiration is present tense. I love that you did that. Pre-justification leans into the future. You'd be fine without me, okay? Nobody says the second one by accident, okay? So here's what to do about this one. Need something small, on purpose, low stakes, zero drama. Can you come get me? Can you look at this before I send it? I had a rough one. Can you just be on the phone for a couple minutes or FaceTime me for a couple minutes, okay? Not as a test, as data point, okay? Because independence you actually choose still gets to include asking, okay? Number 5, you never make me feel pressured. This one sounds like you're not needy, but generally it really means you've never asked me to define this, okay? This is the one where pressure quietly becomes the word for clarity he doesn't want to give. 6 months of ambiguity and he's still thanking you for it? Come on, dude. Like, what are we talking about here, okay? Here's what makes this one genuinely costly though. And I mean like physiologically costly. Uncertainty is not a neutral state. Your brain treats not knowing as an unresolved threat and keeps the system mildly switched on until it gets resolved. There is solid work, solid research that shows uncertainty about an outcome drives the stress response harder than knowing a bad outcome is coming, okay? Let that land for a second. Not knowing where you stand can be more taxing than knowing it's over, okay? Knowing the loop's closed. So somebody in this situation, the person that's carrying the ambiguity, it's a real cost. And it doesn't evaporate just because nobody named it, okay? If he's not carrying it, you are. Okay? And he's calling that a virtue, okay? So here's what to watch for. First of all, what's not a problem? A guy that's genuinely moving slowly who tells you where he is. I don't know what this is yet. Here's what I do know. Here's what I'm not ready for. That's not ambiguity. That's honesty on a slower timeline, and it's completely legitimate. Slow is fine. Slow is actually often good. Slow with information is totally different animal than slow with silence, okay? The problem is the compliment is the answer. You ask where this is going and you get praised instead of answered. Gratitude arrives in the exact spot where information was supposed to go. So here's what to do on this one, okay? Ask once, plainly, out loud, not through vibes, not through hoping, and then stop asking and start watching, because his answer to a direct question is data, but his reaction to the fact that you asked is better data, okay? Did he get warmer or did he get careful? Now you just got to listen and take action on the data, okay? Pause for a second here. Did you notice a pattern, right? There's something under nearly every single one of these. Did you see it? Let's line them up. Low maintenance requires less of him. Not like other girls, asks for less than they do. Easy to talk to, carries more, requests less. So independent, needs less. Never pressures me, demands less clarity. Every single one rewards you for requiring less. I call this convenience praise. Compliments that reward the parts of you that cost him nothing. And here's the mechanism that makes it work, which again is not manipulation. It's just learning, okay? You will actually change. Not because you're weak, because that is how brains work, okay? Reinforced behavior increases. Every time your smallness gets praised, your nervous system quietly files under, this is what keeps me chosen. You didn't decide to shrink. It happened beautifully, invisibly over months. You didn't decide to shrink. It happened invisibly over months, okay? And you didn't shrink on purpose. You got trained, and that training shows up in research. There's an entire body of research on what psychologists call self-silencing, suppressing your own needs, opinions, and feelings to keep a relationship stable. It's one of the more consistently replicated findings in the literature on women's mental health. Higher self-silencing is correlated with higher depressive symptoms. Remember, correlation is not a causal chain, to be clear, but it has been replicated across a lot of samples over a lot of decades, and the direction isn't exactly mysterious, okay? The relationship stayed stable, you didn't, okay? So what does real praise sound like then? Okay, here's the cleanest test that I've got, and it's literally one line. I'm going to give you lots of examples here, okay? But does this compliment ask something of him? Or is it excusing him from something? Okay, that's it. That's the whole thing. Convenience praise excuses him. Real praise implicates him. Okay, so listen to the difference. I love how clear you are. Now he has to be clear back. I like knowing what you need. Now he has to meet some of it. You make me want to show up better. He just made himself accountable out loud. You told me you were upset, and I'm glad you did. He just made your honesty safe to repeat. Okay. Every one of those costs him something. Everyone names a behavior instead of an absence. Everyone, if he means it, obligates him going forward. Real praise costs him. Convenience praise costs you. A man who wants you praises the parts of you that require him to rise. A man who wants convenience praises the parts of you that require nothing at all. You were never too much. You were just handed a contract in the shape of a compliment. So, okay, deep breath, because I just handed you a decoder ring, and now I have to tell you what it isn't. Okay, most men saying these things are not scheming. He is not sitting in a car drafting clauses. He's not running a play. There was no strategy meeting. He is just telling you honestly which version you cost him the least, and that he likes that version best. And I know some of you just went, well, that's like worse, low-key. It is. And it isn't, okay? Let's break this down, okay? Why it might be worse. You can argue with a strategy. You can't out-communicate a preference, though. If a man genuinely prefers the version of you that asks for nothing, no amount of vulnerable, well-phrased, perfectly timed communication is going to make him prefer a different one, okay? That's just a thing. Why it might be better, low-key, though, okay? Ignorance is teachable. Malice isn't. A huge number of men were raised in complete emotional illiteracy. Nobody modeled what praise is for. They learned that she's easy is the highest available compliment because that's what every other man around them said in a good relationship. That's not a character flaw, that's curriculum, which means the real test was never the compliment, it's the correction. You tell him gently what that actually landed as, and then you watch. A man who didn't know goes, oh, damn, yeah, I do that. Then he adjusts imperfectly over weeks with probably a few relapses, but he adjusts, okay? A man who did know goes defensive, makes you the problem for noticing it, or apologizes so fast, so hard, the conversation ends before anything changes. Same sentence, completely different men. The difference lives on the other side of the feedback, not the compliment itself. So be careful with this, okay? Ignorance is not the same thing as malice. I just want to be clear about that. We won't need to crucify people, okay? Let's talk about the part of you that wants this to be a weapon. I know some of you have been watching this entire video so far with this rising sense of righteous clarity, mentally cross-referencing the last three men who said any of these things and building a case, right? I told you, I can read your mind. So let me introduce you to who's driving. I call this part of you, part of my clients, the prosecutor. Okay, she's not paranoid, she's not crazy. She's one of the most competent parts in your entire system, and she's an excellent resume because at some point you missed something something you could have seen, and it cost you a year or a marriage or a version of yourself you haven't fully gotten back. So the prosecutor took the job, and her whole job description is never again. Okay. And here's what she's actually doing when she reads a list like this one. Okay. She wants absolute. So this is perfect. Okay. Because gray is expensive. Nuance costs energy. Sitting with, I don't know yet, let me see what he does over the next month, requires you to tolerate uncertainty. And we just covered what uncertainty does to a nervous system. It's not fun. Okay. A verdict is cheaper than an investigation. So she convicts early because certainty feels like safety, even when it's inaccurate. All right. The other thing she's doing, she's prosecuting the last guy. Her evidence file is old. Okay. She's applying the pattern that hurt you before to a man who hasn't done anything yet. That's not discernment. That's a priors problem. And the last thing she's doing is she thinks conviction equals protection. But being right about a man early has never once protected anybody. It gets you out sooner, which genuinely matters, and is still not the same thing as being safe. And hear me clearly, because the prosecutor takes a lot of hate from the just be open crowd. She's not the enemy. She is a protector doing an exhausting job with outdated files. She's built her entire career on keeping you from getting blindsided again. That deserves the respect before it deserves a retirement plan. And by the way, some of you have the exact opposite protector, okay? The one who reads all 5 of these, recognizes every single one of them, and instantly generates a reason for each of them so that it's fine. That part of you is doing the same kind of job, but from the other direction, right? And it's protecting you from having to leave, which is still a rupture and still painful, okay? So how do you actually work with these parts? How do you work with this part of you? It's not to manage her, okay? It's not to override her. It's not to quiet this inner critic, okay? It's to work with her. So step 1, find her in your body. Before you analyze anything, where does it show up? Where's the case building live? Your jaw, your chest, your shoulders, okay? Is it that forward leaning heat behind your sternum? Sense it. Don't explain it. Just focus on it, okay? Analysis is how we avoid a part while looking productive. Don't do that. Find it in your body and just focus on it. And then I just want you to notice how you feel towards her. Are you annoyed, embarrassed? If you're anything other than curious and passionate, you're blended with a different part of you, usually one that thinks she's humiliating, okay? Ask that one for just a little bit of space for you to talk to the prosecutor, okay? And then number 3, you got to unblend out loud if you can. A part of me wants a verdict right now. That's a part of me, not all of me. That one sentence creates the little tiny gap that you need, and that's where choice actually lives. It's where yourself can make a decision, right? From clarity and compassion and courage and confidence. And then step 4, you got to get curious, not corrective. Ask her, what are you afraid will happen if I stay unsure for another 2 weeks? Then be quiet and let her answer. Okay, it's almost never he's bad, and it's almost always you won't survive being wrong again. Okay. Step number 5 is to update her. Okay. She's running on information from a version of you who didn't have this list, didn't have the language for any of it, didn't have the resources to leave. Tell her what's different now. Show her the exit that exists today. Okay. She doesn't need to be fired. She needs a promotion from judge to analyst. Same skills, way less collateral damage. Okay. And so where does this actually leave you then? Let me give you a hint. You're not doomed. Okay. Everybody on the internet wants you to walk away from a post like this, convinced modern dating is a minefield and every man is a con artist with a script. I refuse to do that. You know me. Okay. Here's what's actually true though. You just learned that praise is directional. Okay. That's the whole skill. You now know how to hear the shape of a compliment instead of only the warmth of it. And that's a permanent upgrade that costs you nothing to carry around. It doesn't have to make you suspicious, but it can help you catch the exact moment you're about to make yourself smaller for a hit of approval and then choose differently. Not because you're guarded, because you finally see the mechanism. And on the other side of this kind of work, guess what? You learn to stop optimizing for being chosen and start noticing whether or not you're being met. Those are different questions. Completely different questions, and they produce completely different relationships. Run this with curiosity, not as a verdict. Curiosity is what lets you find out who someone actually is. Compassion is what lets you do it without turning a nervous man with a bad script into a villain. And together, those two are what let you leave when you need to, without the whole thing costing you your faith in people. You were never too much. You were just being praised for taking up less room by someone who didn't know what he was doing, probably. And you get to want more than that. All right? If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Do it right now so you never miss a video. And if you want to go deeper on any of these kinds of topics, you'd love my community. It's where I go deeper. I go live and I talk with people and I answer these questions. We have programming. We have all sorts of really cool stuff inside of there. And you can meet other people on the similar journey as you. Check it out in the description below. I believe in you. You got this. Have an awesome one. Peace.